what practices or processes, if any, do you have for keeping up with your Japanese, Spanish, and other languages? All right. I do have some approaches here. So number one is something that's become much easier in the last handful of years, and that is movies. Watch movies. Not only watch, say, for instance, movies in Japanese, so Japanese movies with English subtitles, watch English language movies with Japanese subtitles, and ditto for Spanish, right? So watch English language movies you know well, ideally, right? Could be something you've seen 100 times, like Die Hard or whatever, doesn't really matter, with Spanish subtitles. And then conversely, watch Spanish language movies with English subtitles. Preferably, that's something that is, say, a series or a television show. I just find there's a little bit more grist for the mill, and you can get used to the speech patterns of various protagonists and actors within a given series. So I've done that with Spanish multiple times. Another approach is linking them together. So linking languages together. And what I mean by that is if, for instance, you have learned, in my case, Japanese first, when I wanted to learn German, I bought both Japanese language versions of One Piece, which is a very famous manga, very famous comic book. I bought German language versions of this same One Piece comic book, which is a global phenomenon. Many people know it now, but certainly back in 2005, this would have been less common, in German and then later in Spanish. So I could read the same series. And if I'm reading the German and I don't understand a section, rather than going to an English-German dictionary or a German-English dictionary, I'm going back to the Japanese, and I'm using the Japanese to learn the meaning of the German. And by doing that, I'm reviewing my Japanese while acquiring the German. And then later, for instance, when I did Spanish, I used the German language version of One Piece as my safety net for the Spanish language version of One Piece. So I'm reading it in Spanish. If I don't understand something, I'm not going to English. I'm not going to Japanese. I'm going to my most recent language, which is going to be, in that case, German, if that makes any sense. And what's beautiful about these comic books is they are laid out page by page, pane by pane, typically in exactly the same way. So the dialogue should map really cleanly. And another benefit, which I just alluded to for the comic books, is that they are almost entirely dialogue rather than exposition, dense prose that is very literary in nature. Almost all of it is dialogue. And granted, they might be talking about pirates or something else that's not going to fall into your daily conversation all the time, but a lot of it will, and certainly the grammar will.